Growing edible mushrooms from bits you would usually throw away. First thing, we're going to sterilise some cardboard. I'm boiling cardboard in a saucepan with water, 5 to 10 minutes. Second thing, we're going to grab a little takeaway tray like this and make some little tiny holes in the side for air holes for the mycelium to be able to breathe. Then, I'm going to sterilise these with some rubbing alcohol. If you don't have rubbing alcohol, you can also use boiling water just poured over them. So most mushrooms need a completely sterilised environment to grow, so as not to compete with other bacteria and microbes. However, oyster mushrooms are so prolific that you don't really have to follow the same rules, so we can just give everything a quick wipe down. So we're trying out 2 varieties of oyster today. We've got this black pearl oyster, and then we've got this beautiful pink oyster. Black pearls grow really rampantly and really well. I know that pink oysters are a little bit more fussy. So we're going to see if this method works for both, but experiment with whatever oyster mushroom you can get your hands on, basically. Bear in mind, if you're growing more than one type of oyster mushroom, to sterilise your equipment in between. Mycelium can spread from equipment to equipment, and the 2 types of mushrooms could compete. We're looking for the stems of the oyster mushrooms to have this nice, white, fluffy kind of appearance. That means they're rich in mycelium. You can also, if you have any of the base of the mushroom and the substrate, if that looks nice and white, you can also use that. And I'm going to cut off any brown bits that are getting a bit old and possibly letting in disease through their open cut surface. That is looking good. So here we have our pink oyster mushroom stems, and here we have our black pearl oyster. Caps you can eat as you would any other mushroom. So there's our cardboard, boiled, sterilised and cooled down to room temperature. It looks like it's steaming, but that's just because we're in a cold place. It's actually really quite nice and cool now. We're going to place a layer of that in our sterilised container that now has air holes in it. Now we're going to put our layers of mushroom stem in between our cardboard. You want about 15% mushroom to 85% cardboard, essentially. And just like a sandwich, we're gonna layer it up with another layer of cardboard, sealing in all that lovely mycelium. Voila! We're gonna stick our lid on, tuck them in nicely, and then label them what kind of mushroom they are and what date we started them. We're gonna leave this at room temperature in a dark place for 1 to 2 weeks, checking on it daily. What you'll see is the mycelium spread. It's completely ready when everything is white and it looks like a big white blot. Here is our oyster cardboard mycelium, and you can see it's spread beautifully through the whole substrate. I thought originally it'd take about a week, maybe 2. It actually took 2 weeks to get every bit of cardboard completely colonised, as you can see. And I think that's because it's really cold in my house. If your house is a bit warmer or you're doing this in the summer months, you probably find it does it in about a week. So first we're going to take our substrate. A lovely big bucket of wood chip. You could use straw, sawdust. People even grow on cardboard, and sometimes I've seen people grow on toilet rolls, although I'm not sure how nutritious that is. But we are going to use wood chip because wood chip is something we have an abundance of. So we're going to cover it with enough water just to cover the substrate. So we boiled our wood chip for about 15 minutes on a really high heat to sterilise it nicely. And now we're going to strain it out. Steamy. We're going to let that cool down for a bit till it's kind of room temperature. So we're going to take a large food bag. You can buy specialist mushroom bags. And I've rolled over the top and made it stand up. And then we've got our lovely wood chip substrate. So I'm going to spread a layer. It's cooled down nicely to about room temperature, but we're in a greenhouse, which is very cold, so you might see some steam. It's about the same temperature as my hand, so we're all good. So I'm going to put in 1 inch or 2 in the bottom. I'm going to remove any really large bits of wood like that, because the larger the pieces of substrate you have, the slower the mycelium will spread because it's got to colonise through those big pieces. So if you're doing this on sawdust or straw, you'll find it will probably colonise a lot quicker. So once I've got about 1 inch in there, I'm going to pick up a layer of this, cake substrate. I'm going to break it in half. Oh, it's beautifully colonised all the way through. And just put clumps in layers across. And I'm going to keep doing that. I'm going to do a few layers of wood chip, then mushroom, then wood chip, then mushroom. Beautiful. So you're looking at ratio-wise, about 10 to 20% of your cardboard substrate with mycelium on to 90 to 80% of your other substrate, so your straw, your cardboard, or your wood chip, to get a really nice balance and a good growth of the mycelium in your new substrate. Remember also that you need to sterilise your surfaces and your hands, which I've already done beforehand. Getting out all the air and then zipping it up, and I'll just get the last push of air out. And that is our mushroom block. We're going to leave that in a room temperature space for between 2 to 4 weeks, usually, where the mushroom mycelium will run again like it did on the cardboard, and you'll end up with something looking like this. So your substrate will be fully colonised. You'll get these little pins, so little tiny mushrooms will form. You'll see them underneath the plastic. You want to cut an X into that and spray them every day with a water mist to prevent them from drying out. And that's it. That's how you grow mushrooms from old stuff.